Hello everyone, welcome to my vlog 2 that I will speak about capacities and the skills issues during certain activities. Discussing skills and capacities issues during speed drills and agility drills. Using two players that are undergoing rehabilitation due to MCL injuries. We will start with a skill issue during a speed drill forming a 60-meter sprint. As you can see, this athlete has a few problems when he's maintaining his maximum speed. We can realize that at ground contact, his foot is striking a little bit forward to his center of mass. Besides being able to maintain a good shin position during swing phase, during the push-off he performs an excessive extension of the hip and knee, increasing the contact time. Besides being able to maintain a good ankle position before touchdown, this athlete is not performing a successful leg recovery in order to reposition his foot below his center of mass. Some of the issues that we found was a triple extension strategy at push-off that increases the contact time and an insufficient leg recovery before the touchdown due to overstriding, increasing the braking forces. After this kinematic assessment, several hypotheses were generated, especially thinking if we have here a problem of capacity or skill. In this case, capacity issues could be due to a decreased leg extension force production, creating the need to spend more time in contact with the ground to generate force. In this case, an hip flexion strength deficit would not be too obvious once the athlete was able to maintain a high knee during the knee drive. An assessment was made to know if we were here with a capacities problem. We checked the 1RM of the athlete as well as his reactivity strength index. The assessment showed that the athlete possessed the capacities to perform the movement with an optimal quality, having optimal scores in the 1REM calculation as well as the reactivity strength index, leading us to perceive that the athlete have a skill issue regarding the maximum sprint. In order to overcome this difficulty, some running drills were performed with the athlete, like the wall drill, trying to make the athlete being able to express force rapidly in the ground, skips, and some running drills to improve the leg recovery. A strategy using small hurdles was also used in order to give some constraint during the maximum speed running. Results were great, leading the athlete to express a better kinematic during the running. As you can see, during stance, his foot has a better relation regarding his center of mass. Hip extension range of motion as well as knee was decreased, correcting the triple extension strategy. Leg recovery also benefited from the constraint. After accessing the kinematics without the constraints, obvious benefits of the intervention were seen. Touchdown was made with a more vertical shin below the center of mass. Hip and knee extension amplitudes decreased, leading to less time in contact with the ground due to a better leg recovery. The next athlete possesses some capacity issues during the same activity. As you see the athlete sprinting at his maximum speed, you can see some of the issues that we are going to talk about. At first, his foot strike is way too far from his center of mass, as well as his knee is not crossing over the one that is in stance during the touchdown. Besides possessing a good shin position during swing, has some issues regarding the triple extension during push-off, as well as a decreased hip flexion during late swing that might have implications in the leg recovery. Taking in consideration this kinematic analysis, we hypothesized that we could have some capacities issues related to strength deficits or mobility. This way was relevant to check the leg extension strength through the 1RM calculation and reactivity strength index, as well as hip flexor strength, and check if mobility was okay. Through this, we realized that our athlete had a deficit in the leg extension strength as well as the reactivity strength index of the right leg. Besides, his hip flexors were also weak, expressing half of the strength of the average of the team. To overcome these issues, a general strength program was introduced to the athlete, with general exercises using fundamental movement patterns, considering the lack of experience of the athlete in the gym. Hip flexors were also addressed at first with a maximum strength program, followed with a program to develop the speed in the contraction. Weightlifting derivatives were also part of the program, together with some ballistic and plyometric exercises, both for vertical and horizontal force expression, increasing the demandings of the athlete. Together with this, some running drills to improve the knee flexion and the application of force during the push-off were used, like the wall drills, the skips with double contact, and also skips with just one contact and fast, together with some exercises to improve leg recovery. Unfortunately, a follow-up of this athlete was not possible once he moved to the national team. The next video will be the assessment of a skill issue during a 90-degree change of direction. When checking the video, it is clear that the athlete has some issues regarding his changing of direction movement pattern, starting on the deceleration that is performed with an excessive use of contacts, followed by an inefficient acceleration as well. During the right change of direction, the athlete used the outside leg to excessively push and rotate his body, avoiding the use of a crossover step. In the left changing of direction, the athlete turns his body over the inner leg. This inefficient deceleration and use of the crossover leads to many other issues, especially on the right changing direction, showing an excessive anterior position of the first foot in contact in order to produce deceleration after the braking, leading to a diminished ability to produce horizontal force. Due to the difference in the ground force reaction angles, the shin angles relative to the ground are also different, leading to another inefficient ground contact with the foot relative to the center of mass, leading to an even more obvious inefficient application of force on the ground, perpetuating the difference in the shin position relative to the ground in comparison of the both change of direction. As a consequence of the more vertically directed application of force during the first step of acceleration, we can see that the space between the foot and the ground is higher, leading to a loss of time in the reposition of the foot. Considering all these issues, it was important to understand if we were in front of a capacities issue or a skills issue. Taking consideration the previous assessment of this athlete relative to his capacities and knowing that he doesn't have any mobility issue, it was then confirmed that we were in front of a skill issue regarding the preparation of the crossover step. Taking that in consideration, most of the intervention was based on exercises that would help to express the force more laterally as well as using the crossover mechanics. As you can see in the beginning, the athlete was not being able to reproduce the crossover. Using a constraint, however, he was able to perform it correctly, even after removing the constraint. After that achieved, the athlete performed the drill, the changing direction drill, in a segmented way in order to decrease the demands of the exercise due to speed. At the time of delivery of this work, Through the assessment of the athlete, it is possible to see some improvement in his changing of direction mechanics, especially on the use of the outward leg to decelerate the movement, as you can see in the next comparison picture, allowing the inner leg to perform the crossover step. Force application on the ground was also improved in both changing of direction, as well as the repositioning of the limb on the second step. Finally, we will discuss a capacity issue during the same activity. At the first glance, both the changing of directions to the right and left might seem okay. However, if we look carefully, we can see that during the right change of direction, the force application angles, both in the outside leg and also in the inner side leg during the crossover, are different, probably due to the different position of the foot relative to the center of mass. Considering these kinematic issues and knowing the history of strength deficits of this athlete, it was hypothesized that a capacities issue was underpinning this situation. Although for maximum speed, the leg extension strength is extremely relevant, for this case of change of direction, the reactivity strength index gives us better information, and we can see that the right leg has a deficit on this strength quality. To overcome this problem, we kept the general strength program that was used before in order to improve the mechanics of the outside leg during this changing direction. Once again, we could not make the follow-up of this athlete by the reason explained before. We should look careful to this data, due to the limitations in understanding if this change in movement patterns really improve the performance of the athlete. The GPS data showed an improvement in the maximum speed of the athletes as well as the acceleration profiles. However, this data is not accurate enough to prove that our intervention resulted in better performance.